What happens when heartbreak turns into a deadly spree? In 1997, 28-year-old architect Aryan Kashyap married the woman his family chose for him in rural Rajasthan, Zoya Mehra. She was beautiful, educated, and from a respectable family. The wedding was grand, attended by over 500 guests. Everyone believed it was a perfect match. But 7 months later, Zoya ran away with another man. A man she had secretly been with even before her wedding to Aryan. She left behind a note explaining that she could never love Aryan the way he deserved, that her heart belonged to someone else. It came as a shock to everybody. Their families were devastated. The community whispered, questioned what Aryan had done wrong. And though they searched far and wide, nobody was able to find her. Even her closest friend had no idea where she went. Zoya's actions broke something inside Aryan. He'd strongly believed that they had something special, that arranged marriages were the purest and most favored by the god of love, Kamadeva. He felt betrayed, stripped of his dignity in front of his entire community. And thus, a monster was born. He became a man of the bottle, spending nights at taverns, alone with his thoughts. He watched couples, watched women, and his bitterness grew. Soon, he decided that all women needed to pay for the pain Zoya caused him. So he began to harm women. In 2003, he took his first victim. He found a woman sitting alone at a local tavern in a neighboring district. Her name was later identified as Priya, a 34-year-old day laborer. He sat with her, and they talked through the night. He was sweet and charming. He offered to escort her to her home. She let him. That action cost her everything. He ended her life with her own scarf in a dark alley just blocks from her home. For a trophy, he took her earrings. It was the beginning of a 16-year reign of terror. His method was chillingly calculated. He would scout taverns and bars for days, watching and studying with intent. Single women, workers of the night, women no one would quickly miss. He kept a journal documenting their routines, when they arrived, who they related with. When they left, he would approach them with a friendly smile, offer free drinks, listen to their stories, and gain their trust. Some women he observed for weeks before making his move. Then he would lure them to isolated areas, construction sites, empty lots, railway tracks, abandoned buildings on the outskirts of town. There, he would end their lives, usually with their own clothing, scarves, dupattas, saris. When asked later, he said it was symbolic, using what made them women to end them. Then he would pour alcohol on their faces and set them on fire, making them difficult to recognize. Between 2003 and 2009, he took 9 women's lives. 9 women reduced to unidentified bodies in police reports. Jane Doe after Jane Doe, but Aryan eventually slipped up. In September 2009, he took a woman's anklets after ending her life. He tried to sell them at a pawn shop. The owner thought they looked familiar. He'd seen a police bulletin about missing jewelry. He contacted authorities. In October 2009, police finally caught Aryan. They raided his modest apartment. There, they found a box filled with a variety of stolen jewelry, all trophies from his victims. They also found his journal, detailed entries about each woman, and chillingly, his bitter thoughts about Zoya on every page. Aryan confessed to the crimes within hours of interrogation. But his defense attorney had a strategy. He pleaded insanity. His lawyer argued that Zoya's abandonment had triggered a psychotic break, that Aryan suffered from severe depression and dissociative episodes. A forensic psychiatrist testified that Aryan showed signs of delusional disorder, that he genuinely believed he was serving a higher purpose by killing those women. Surprisingly, his claim was legitimized. The court accepted the insanity defense. And in February 2011, instead of prison, he was committed to a psychiatric hospital. His terrible actions seemed to be at an end. But in December of that same year, Aryan escaped from the hospital. He and 5 other patients simply walked out during a shift change. Security was lax. No alarms were triggered. By the time staff noticed, they were gone. Aryan disappeared into the shadows of India. Within months, he took 5 more lives. This time, his crimes were in different districts and different states. He'd learned from his mistakes. He used different names, different identities. Police across multiple jurisdictions were hunting him. But he stayed one step ahead until May 2012. A tavern owner in Bowenpelli recognized him from a wanted poster. He quietly contacted police while keeping Aryan engaged in conversation. Officers arrived within minutes. Aryan was recaptured. This time, he was sent to prison. Maximum security in Cherlapalli Central Prison. It seemed as though he would finally face the justice of the law. But Aryan's story was far from over. He spent 6 years behind bars. During that time, he filed multiple appeals. His lawyers argued that his original psychiatric evaluation was flawed, that he had been medicated improperly during trial, that his confession was coerced. In 2018, something unthinkable happened. The Telangana High Court reviewed his case and granted his appeal. Citing procedural errors in his original trial, they ordered his release. Legal experts were shocked. Victims' advocates were livid. But the decision stood. Aryan walked free in March 2018. He immediately took 2 more lives. Within weeks of his release, one in Shamirpet and one in Patancheru. Both women were found in remote areas. Faces scorched. Evidence of throttling. The pattern was unmistakable. Police arrested him again in April 2018. He was sent back to prison. But incredibly, his legal team filed another appeal. They argued that the cases against him were built on circumstantial evidence rather than eyewitness accounts. And in July 2020, during the height of the pandemic, he was released yet again. For the 3rd time, he evaded justice. And like the previous times, he went right back to business. By December 2020, he was back at the taverns, wearing a mask like everyone else during the pandemic. It made him virtually invisible. On December 30th, he met 50-year-old Ishani Malhotra at a tavern in Yusufguda. Ishani was a regular there, known by the staff. Aryan closed her tab for the night. They had a good conversation. He seemed kind. She went with him to a remote location in Ankashupur village. There, he attacked her fatally with a boulder, in a way that was beyond brutal. Then he doused her face in gasoline and set it on fire until she was unrecognizable. But this time, police found something. A small piece of paper tucked inside Ishani's blouse. A phone number that belonged to her brother. Soon, the police were able to reach him. They found out what pub she had been at. They collected CCTV footage from the area, from bus stops, from shops, from the metro station. It was the one from right outside the bar that cracked the case. The footage showed Ishani interacting with a masked man. At one point, the man lowered his mask to smoke a cigarette. It was brief, but it was enough. A task force officer recognized him immediately. It was Aryan Kashyap. The image matched another one obtained in front of a pawn shop. When it was investigated, it turned out that Aryan had sold some jewelry there. Ishani Malhotra's jewelry, her distinctive silver anklets. The pawn shop owner identified both Aryan and the jewelry. A warrant was issued immediately. On January 26, 2021, Aryan was arrested for the last time. The trial began in late 2021. It was one of the most closely watched cases in Telangana's history and the history of southern India. The prosecution faced significant challenges. Aryan's defense team was aggressive. They argued that the CCTV footage was inconclusive. That because Aryan was wearing a mask common during the pandemic, it could have been anyone. They claimed the police were falsely implicating their client, that he was an easy target because of his past. But the prosecution built an ironclad case. The public prosecutor presented overwhelming evidence. The pawn shop owner testified. He positively identified Aryan as the man who sold Ishani's anklets. The tavern owner testified. He had known Ishani well. She was a regular, and he clearly remembered seeing the 50-year-old woman leave with the much younger Aryan on the night of her murder. As if that was not enough, Aryan's fingerprints were found on the jewelry. Cell phone tower data placed him at the location. The defense crumbled, witness after witness, evidence after evidence. The case was overwhelming. In October 2023, the Hyderabad Sessions Court delivered its verdict. Guilty on all counts. The judge called Aryan's crimes premeditated and cruel. He further pronounced Aryan a danger to society. He rejected the defense's arguments about mental health. He stated that Aryan's meticulous planning, his ability to evade capture, and his calculated methods proved he knew exactly what he was doing. Finally, his sentence came, a death sentence. Aryan showed no emotion whatsoever. He simply stared ahead, completely without remorse. Police believed that he took at least 18 women's lives, cases they could directly link to him. But they suspect the real number could be over 50. His journal contained cryptic entries that suggested many more. Locations that led to cold tracks and dead ends. Dates that didn't match known victims. Many of his victims were never identified. Their faces burned beyond recognition. Their families never found out what happened to them. Daughters, mothers, sisters, gone without a trace, reduced to case numbers and unmarked graves. But here's the truly horrifying part. He was released from prison twice after being convicted. Twice, the courts let a confirmed perpetrator walk free. And each time, more women lost their lives. As of today, Aryan remains on death row in a maximum security prison in Hyderabad. India's death penalty process is lengthy. Appeals to the High Court, then to the Supreme Court, then a mercy petition to the President. Aryan could remain alive for many more years. He could very well live to a good old age. This is the story of betrayal that spawned a monster, and a legal system that failed to stop him. A man who used his pain as justification for unspeakable acts, and a system that gave him chance after chance to harm again. How does a convicted perpetrator get released not once, but twice, only to harm again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this one send chills down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe to Stone Cold Cheaters, where the stories are true and terrifying.